Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another season of the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're excited to be here and be rolling today, and look forward to seeing you all from now and as long as we can run this thing out. So I'll start off just with a roster update. 4 injuries to start camp. 2, I think everybody knows, Dermott, shoulder, Hyman, knee. Both continuing to rehab. We've got Garrett Wilson, hamstring. He'll likely miss most of camp, well, definitely camp, and then most of the preseason as he rehabs from that. And then, as you know from last week, Joseph Wall, broken finger. He'll start getting back on the ice this week, and we'll see where he's at as we get rolling from there. Moving on from that, I just want to address the Mitch Marner situation. I'm happy to address the matter today. He's obviously not here for the beginning of camp. I'm happy to address the matter today and take your questions on it today, but then after that, we won't have anything from our end until there's a solution to the matter one way or the other. So I'll give you the opportunity now to ask anything you want, and until we have something finished beyond that, be radio silence from us. So with that, I'll turn it over to you all.
So regarding Mitch then, how is this situation similar to Willie last year, and what have you learned that you can do differently with Mitch?
I don't think they're all too similar. You know, there's obviously some similarities, but William's situation was one where I think we've discussed a lot. It was really a 3-4 month process. This one has been much longer than that, and I think one of the things we've learned is once it starts, continuing to give updates and continuing to discuss it, I think is not always the best. I know it doesn't serve the media and the public overly well, but in learning from that, I think that's why we want to handle it that way, and we'll roll from there. And just continuing to stay in contact and try to find our way to a solution. Don't let too much time go by and trying to wait each other out and roll from there.
Kyle, as time goes by here, this team is obviously becoming more and more, I guess, quote unquote, yours. The ideal is something I assume you'll always be chasing, but do you feel like you're closer now than you have been to accomplishing that?
I think I don't ever look at it, Justin, as mine. I think it's ours, and I'm just a member of the organization and trying to carry out the vision that we all have when it comes to player acquisition, drafting, player development, so on and so forth. The members of our staff. I think every day we move forward, we're trying to get one day closer to being at the best we can be each day. I don't think that we're necessarily there yet. I don't know if you ever really are, but I think every day we go forward, we're trying to find the best that we can be each day. And when we talk about the process, I know it's not as fancy as talking about great outcomes or anything like that, but I think that's really what we're focused on right now is heading into camp, making sure we're set today for tomorrow and going on ice and getting all the systems and such that Mike wants to get in place and get rolling, and then continuing to carry on from there. But I don't ever look at this as mine, because I think it belongs to the city and the organization and the players much more than it does to me.
Kyle, assuming Mitch is going to get signed at some point in time, how important is the core of this returning group, given that come the end of camp, almost a third of your roster might be turned over?
Yeah, it's. I think that once we get that situation cleared, Henny, we'll have everything kind of settled for, we hope, for a while, and we hope more and more players play their way into that, what we consider the core of the group, right? And whether that's guys that are going to get a greater opportunity now, or young players up from the Marlies who we think have a lot of promise, forwards, defense, and goaltending. We hope more and more players get added to that group, and it just carries on. I think stability is an important thing. Obviously, you're 100% right. We have made a lot of changes to the roster through trade and free agency, players departing more so in free agency than we added guys who you would consider core players. But I think the more the group has time together and continue to build their bond and stay on that track, the better for the whole.
Once you get Mitch done, Kyle and Hyman and Dermott are back from injury. Yeah. Will you have provided Mike with a roster that can win the Stanley Cup?
I don't. I know it disappoints a lot of people, Terry, but I don't ever look at it as, can this roster do X? It's really, can this roster give us chances to accomplish those types of things? And can the roster that's put together at the beginning of the year get better each day throughout and each game throughout and weather different storms and adversities that come its way during the season and roll from there? I think Mike has proven he's a coach capable of winning the Stanley Cup. He's been to the finals on 2 other occasions and gone to Game 7 in both of those. So I know that the coaching staff, with their work ethic and preparation and adding Paul McFarland and Dave Haxtell, are going to do their part, and I have a lot of faith in the core of the group that they're going to do theirs as well. And we'll just continue to keep rolling every day here and try to be the best we can be every day. And in the end, hope that you get some fortune and you step up in key moments and it results in success.
Kyle, just going back to Mitch,
Yeah.
with where things stand in the market and with your cap and everything, is his side being reasonable in their demands?
I think in every negotiation, everybody thinks on their side they're being reasonable, and I think the major argument then comes down to arguing about whether who's more reasonable than the other, right? And I think it happens in every negotiation we have, whether it's at home or in business or in employment or in public contract negotiations like this, where there's obviously a strong public investment in the matter and people care deeply about the team. I would say it's vice versa in every negotiation that we do, but I don't try to get too tied into that. And Mitch is a great player. He's a great person that comes in here every day and brings great energy and enthusiasm, and obviously had a great 3 years here. So we're just focused on trying to bring it to an end and always keep that in mind regardless of what the noise is around the situation.
Kyle, given that it appears you'll be operating an LTIR this year, I'm wondering how much more complicated it will be to complete an in-season deal should you not get one done ahead of time.
Yeah, it's obviously something we have to plan for. I think without boring everybody with the nuances of the LTI calculations and contract calculations as they get in season, it is a factor. I think everybody knows that already. It's been publicly reported. So and when Kevin asked earlier about the differences between William and Mitch, that is a significant difference that will impact it as it comes closer to October too.
Does it have to be done by October 2nd?
I mean, we sure hope so, and we don't want to think about going into the season without Mitch on the roster on opening night. We didn't want to get to this point without him here either. I think that's been publicly stated a number of times, but it certainly impacts all of that for sure.
Based on that, how confident are you that you can get a deal done by the regular season?
I'll stick with the same answer I've given for a long time now. I'm optimistic that we will. I think you don't want to envision the team missing players at any point, Mark, and we're hopeful to get it done. We've gone through this last year. I would feel a little differently, I think personally, if there weren't other situations around the league that were sort of in the same stalemated position. I don't know if any of the other situations have solved themselves this morning or by the time I came over here, but I think that will influence things as well.
Kyle, do you have any concern that it can't be repaired and that when Marner resumes his NHL career, it might not be in Toronto?
I don't ever like to think that way, Elliot, that Mitch would play anywhere else other than here. He's a big part of what we do. He's an extraordinarily talented player, and in addition to that, I think even though these negotiations can go in ways in which the public can form a different opinion, he's an excellent person that walks in here every day with great energy, great enthusiasm, and brings a lot of life to our club. So in the end, I think these things happen. I think with William, there was some heated times as well, but that relationship is excellent, and I have faith that, as with all of these things, once it comes to a solution, that we'll have to have a probably very blunt discussion about things, and then we'll carry on. There's going to be no grudges from our end whatsoever.
Kyle, do you anticipate naming a captain at some point during this camp?
During the camp, did you say? I don't know. Is probably the most honest answer I can give. We talk about it frequently. It's obviously, and I think a lot of it is driven by the fact that everyone in here likes to talk about it. It's a good topic to write about on days when there maybe isn't the most interesting stuff. You just go right to captain. That's like the easy button, I feel. But it's a year ago. I think I may have stood here, had different conversations where I didn't think it was the most important thing. I think now what we've seen, having gone through a season with the group, is we've got a great number of leaders in there, and they are all independently capable of probably doing the job. Here, I think it's a very different job than it may be elsewhere. And you know, the ability to come in every day and be the face of the team and carry the message of the team is very important to us. And the one thing we don't want to do is rush just to make it happen and say it's done and do it now versus waiting till we're absolutely 100% sure and then regret that decision later. So we're just going to be absolutely certain about that, because I think it is an important thing to the community and to the organization. So myself, Shanny, and Babs will continue to discuss it, and at the appropriate time, if we go down that path, we'll be sure to let everybody know in whatever way Steve wants to roll it out.
Just on the Marner situation, Kyle, as you get closer to the regular season when it would become a little bit more difficult to manage, how much does the threat of a potential offer sheet weigh into how you approach it over the next few weeks or so?
I think I've got two parts to my answer on this. The first is, I mean, the potential of an offer sheet has been there since July. You know, I think there's, you know, as few offer sheets as there have been fewer in season. I think there's been one in season. I could be wrong, and if someone will correct me if so, and that's fair. I think there's been one in season offer sheet, and there've been, you know, more in the off season. So it's a possibility. There are no rules against it. It's a mechanism which teams can use to acquire talent for their teams. If it happens, as we said leading into the draft, we'll make our decision then and address it. But I think that, you know, the second part to my answer, Dave, is that, you know, I think one of the things that what I'm really looking for in our group this year, not only our players and our staff, but everybody around it, is I think we have to really start to begin better at weathering these types of things. We spend a lot of time talking about Tampa and Boston, and they're obviously rivals in our division, very good teams. And I think the thing that we can learn from them, rather than being obsessed with them, is how they deal with different things that happen throughout the year. I mean, you look back at last year, Boston missed Chara for a month and a half, McAvoy for more than that, Bergeron for an extended period, Pasternak for a month and a half, and they just keep rolling on. And what I'm really looking for in our group and everyone around our team completely is how we weather those things. I think if we're going to continue to take steps as an organization, we have to be able to accept that it's athletics. Whether it's through contract, injury, surprise retirement, ineffectiveness, things are going to happen that we didn't expect. And if we want to continue to take the right steps, we have to weather those and just keep the train rolling on the tracks, because the rest of the league doesn't stop. And that's really the one thing early on in the season that I'm looking for in our group.
Kyle, you'll have two new assistants on the staff this year. What attracted you to McFarland and Hackstall's candidates, and how do you think they're going to have an impact? Yeah,
when it comes to the assistants, I think, you know, they're a personal thing for Mike, and I think, you know, the way that we handled it is Mike, you know, right after our season ended and we knew things were going to happen, Mike we had Paul McFarland as a guest coach at our development camp. I want to say it was in Niagara-on-the-Lake 2016, and he'd coached with DJ before. So when he got let go in Florida and we knew there was going to be some changes here, I knew that was going to be a guy that Mike would really want. And Paul is a very intelligent person. He's had great success with the power play, with face-offs in Florida. I'll let Mike talk more in depth about him. And then as we went through the replacing DJ, once DJ moved on to Ottawa a little bit later, Mike and I had great discussion about a number of different people, and Mike led the charge there, and in terms of who he would want and what direction we wanted to go in. Then we just kind of worked together on that, and in the end they have to be his call with his assistants, and we're really excited about both guys. They brought a lot already to the table, and Dave obviously has experience as a head coach in Philadelphia, plus working with college athletes at North Dakota. It's a unique offering that it's different from what we had before. We'll miss DJ and Jim a lot, but we're excited about Paul and Dave, and I think that's a key part of our camp, is as a coaching staff, they're going to be together and coaching for the first time and continue to get used to each other. But I know from the summer they've worked extraordinarily hard to get ready, and as Mike will tell you, it's a better question for him, but met when they didn't really have much to mean about anymore because they were working ad nauseum throughout the year. So I'm excited to see them all work together.
What is your relationship with the coach now, as it's evolved over the last 4 or 5 years working together, and the difficulty of the spring and being eliminated?
Sure. Yeah, we talk every day, sometimes multiple times per day. And I think the thing that after, the first 4 years here together, was it 4? 3. 3 years, the first 3 years here together where I was in a different role, you obviously get to know each other. You're not working as closely as we did last season. And so you take last season and you begin to get used to each other. And then I think at the end of the year, reflect on how it went and how we want to operate moving ahead through the summer and into the year. And it's been great. We talk a lot. We disagree, as any coach and GM do a lot. We agree on a lot of things and we work through it all. And I think the key is on the areas that you disagree, that you respect one another and you work through all that. And I think we've worked on that throughout the season and throughout the summer, just with some honest discussion. And it's been very, very enjoyable. And I'm excited for the season with it, for sure, Kevin.
Kyle, in terms of Mike, there was some criticism of his handling of the ice time in Game 7, some other stuff in that playoff series. You said after the season that you would your job had to be evaluated, and that is. When you looked at how Mike handled this team last year, was there stuff that you needed to adjust and that you guys needed to come together on in terms of shared vision and kind of how you're going to move forward together?
I think at the end of every year, Bruce, when it's a GM and coach relationship, you want to talk about what the vision is for the club. Because I think at the end of every year where things, you're not going to win every year, it's just impossible. But even if you have a great season, as best it could have gone given the circumstances, whatever those circumstances may be, even at those times, you want to be changing and adapting and not staying stale. So we spend a lot of time talking about all of that. We spend a lot of time talking about the players and their usage and Mike's ideal way of dealing with it. And I think we're certainly on the same page there. I know everyone looks at that Game 7 and they bring it up all the time, particularly with Austin. But I think if you look at the series as a whole, we're trying to match them depth for depth, right? And you can't just throw all your guys out there all the time and maximize their minutes and burn them out. And I think we always want to be adapting and learning from what went wrong and how we can change it. I know the players are also welcome to give their opinion on it, and they have as well, right? But for us, we need to continue to improve the overall conditioning of the group, and once the players grow and mature that way, they'll be able to handle more and more, and it's trying to manage that. It's still a very young group at the same time. And so I'm not saying that their conditioning was poor, just that we need to continue to be improving on that, so when we get to the end, we know that they have the gas in the tank, that they can outlast the other teams and they can handle more responsibility. So I think we all have to do that together rather than just throw it on the coach or on the players. And I deserve my share of that as well.